Afternoon, guys. Welcome back. This is episode 2 of Fantasy Football from Across the Pond. My name is Gary Thorpe. Joining me today is Connor again. We're here to talk football, but with accents. So, thanks for joining us again, Connor. I know another week has gone by on the NFL and live football is back. I know we had a quick chat just beforehand, but I'm guessing with the 1 a.m. kickoff for the UK fans, it wasn't high on your agenda watching what in effect was a pre-season friendly with no doubt third and fourth string players.
No, well, especially in the Jags as well. So, no disrespect, but not exactly the first team I would stay up to watch on a Thursday night. But yeah, during the season, it's games I'll try and make time for on the morning. New shift pattern means I don't work a Friday, so it's quite good for me to stay up. But I think with the rain delay as well, I just would have been wasting my time. So didn't stay up and catch this one, unfortunately. But as we get closer, it certainly will change.
I think the same with me. Obviously, it's not in the Niners. It was two teams that you'd be like, if it was on and it wasn't massively late, you might put it on the TV and have it on. But yeah, it was like that's not even massively late for us, but stupidly early with the 1 a.m. kickoff. And as you say, rain delay pushed it into 4 or 5 a.m. sort of realms, and on a school night, it's just not going to do it. You know, as UK fans, we're used to those sort of horrible times and stuff, but you do it for your own team. If the Jets are on that late kickoff, early morning kickoff for us, and you'd make time for it, and you'd hope you're not working the next morning, etc. But and the same, the Niners, because they're West Coast, we often have to deal with those late kickoffs all the time. Anyway, to be honest, how bad does the Jets get it in terms of late kickoffs, or being East Coast, do you get a little bit lucky on that front?
So normally the Jets, for me as a UK-based fan, I'll normally catch them about normally the 6 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday. So only normally if it's it's been moved to be one of the
flexed,
main games, Sunday football or Monday night or Thursday night. Will it be a later game for us as a Jets fan in the UK? But quite lucky that majority, being East Coast, that we get the 6 o'clock slot. So see us a lot on the red zone and things like that as well. So quite lucky being that. Obviously, big time difference, isn't it, across the West Coast as well?
Huge, massive, yeah. Because like just looking at the schedule for the Niners this year, planning ahead already, and people, we're already looking at taking days off on the Monday because we've got, I think, only 2 games at the 6 o'clock kickoff slot. The rest of them are either flex to the Sunday night games or Monday night. A couple of Monday night games, which for the UK 49ers, they're 1 a.m., 2 a.m. starts. You wipe out Tuesday mornings, and I think we've even got. I think potentially we've got a Thursday night game as well. I think
I think we've got at least one Thursday night. I think we've got the Browns. Is that our Thursday night game?
I think we might have the Seahawks or something as the Thursday night game. It's one of the after the bye weeks, short week between one and the other. It's like a Thursday night, so much like the preseason. The Hall of Fame game that just happened. That'll be a Friday morning at 2 a.m. It's going to be take the Friday morning off, or at least kind of try and plan around that. It's one of the things that you never get used to as a fan in the UK, but it's one of those sort of sacrifices you make, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's a sacrifice that you make. Like I say, I'm quite lucky where Fridays mean I don't work, so generally I do catch quite a lot of the Thursday night games. I do try and stay up for them unless it's just unappealing. I think there was one last year which was just, I can't remember. It's definitely again, unfortunately, it was the Jags. I can't remember who they were playing, but I just looked at it, I was like, not staying up for that. It just doesn't.
That's a highlight one, isn't it? Or check the NFL.com in the morning type thing. Yeah
exactly. So but generally speaking, I do stay up. I like to kind of see how my fantasy team gets off to an early start of the week as well, although I'm very much a non-believer in playing Thursday night players. I don't know why. It's almost like when we bet on football over here, never bet on the early. I never play me players in the early kickoff as well. I don't know why. Never seemed to work out well for us. So, but I do enjoy staying up watching it. It's a good event, and it's good. starts the weekend off early for you as well. I find.
It does, doesn't it? It kicks off the whole weekend of football, and interestingly, with the new streaming services now, Amazon Prime picking it up, it actually opens it up to a number of UK fans that maybe don't have Sky or don't have Game Pass and don't have stuff like that. So that would be a new market, I think, that they're trying to push into.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously we've seen Amazon Prime over here in the UK for the likes of Premier League football as well, so they're starting to make moves. The only concern I've found with Amazon when I've watched football is just the quality sometimes, just with doing web-based streams, but
it can fluctuate up and down a bit, can't it? And the quality of the commentators as well sometimes can be a bit. Especially for football over here, it's not great, but I'm guessing Amazon in the US are going to throw money at who they're going to get to all the games.
Announced the presenters. I can't remember who the announcers are for the games now off the top of my head. I can't remember. I feel like Greg Olsen, but he might be on a different network. I'll have a look now.
Okay, I always get confused when they say which games are on which network, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's going to be called by," and it's like, how do you remember? Who's doing what where? Yeah, you're right. I think because it's NFL, I think they're going to probably make sure they get some decent names on there, aren't they?
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch has been talked about it. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit. They're the two that are going to be doing it. So
there you go. Well, Al Michaels is his name. Al Michaels' voice, at least, is so recognisable, isn't it, for a lot of us?
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, it's another viewpoint, isn't it? They'll have seen what the other networks do quite well, and they'll bring their own sort of thing to it as well. So it'll be quite interesting to see how Amazon approach it and what they do with it. There's quite a lot of opportunity there for them to kind of make their own path within the showing of the game. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see what they do. They've got the money behind them to do it as well, as you say. So there's definitely a lot of potential there for it to be quite a match made in heaven. Hopefully,
really is, isn't it? I mean, as you say, they've got the chance to look at NBC or in CBS and see what they've done and whatever else, and go, well, that's good, that's bad, and it's Amazon, and tweak it a little bit. And what I did like, there was a couple of games last year I managed to catch via Nickelodeon, because Nickelodeon did that, and that was a really interesting viewpoint because they were targeting that obviously to the younger audience. It did bring, as you say, they've obviously looked at the others like a bit boring and stuffy, so let's get the gunge in and all sorts of crazy stuff. And it seemed to, open up a wider audience for kids in the US at least, and it's something different. So you'll see what Amazon bring to the table.
Yeah, exciting times.
It should be fun. How's your fantasy football drafting, and how are you getting on with that? Because I know we're quite a few of them.
One draft left, one to go. That's my home league, the redraft that we do every year. We've got the pub books for it. We're doing that on the 19th, so just under 2 weeks from now. So we'll meet up. We've got our draft board ready to go. We'll meet up about sort of midday-ish on the Friday. We'll set the pub up. We'll get our jerseys all hanging around. We'll all bring a few jerseys, each hang them around, and we'll get drafted. So it'll be fun. There's a lad in it who he's the not the joke of the group, but certainly the butt of a lot of the jokes within the group. He's let me a little insight into his not his approach, but what he's actually going to do on a draft day. So it should be quite entertaining when he gets going. So
when somebody comes with a draft plan or something that they're going to do during the draft, that a lot of thought and effort's gone in.
His plan generally for drafting involves him making sure he's got at least Cam Newton, Stephon Diggs, OBJ, and then the kicker Young-Ho Koo from the Falcons on his team. Doesn't matter where he could pick 2 in the first round. He doesn't care as long as he gets him. Yeah, and somehow last year he actually did okay. He ended up with a decent team. Didn't miss out on the playoffs by too many. I think it was 2 or 3 wins off the playoffs in the end. But it's a 10-team league, so he's going to wind up with some decent players within there.
What do you do, like a best ball or?
No, just simple redraft. Pick your team each week. It's just like I say, when we first started, it was 2017. There was only one of the lads in the group who'd done it before. The rest of us, the other 9 of us, were fans, but never actually delved into the NFL fantasy world. It actually took until year 5 last year for him to finally win Ellie, the guy who's the older one, who's done it before. Funnily enough.
That must have been pretty annoying for him, I suppose.
Oh yeah, he was so close, but so far over the years. In fact, it was his first final as well, and he managed to win it as well. Although actually, he might have made the final the first year and lost it. But yeah,
it was never close for the next 3 years. And
then
I'm assuming, obviously, the rest of the guys were totally ribbing him because, as the guy who plays it.
Running joke throughout the years. But he finally broke the curse this year, so he's got the trophy, which we do have a trophy for this league. So he'll be presented with that on draft day. That's when we give it, and you keep it for the year till the next draft day. So yeah, I look forward to it. It's but yeah, like I say, because it had just been one way, none of us thought it was just standard. So standard scoring, no PPR, no extra points or anything. Standard everything kind of in there. So it's 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, and a kicker in the defense. I'm not a big fan of the kicker defense because we've done it now for 5 years. It's part of
it'd be a tough one to kind of sort of pull away from, and everyone, if you're planning a draft and it's a redraft on, which ones you're targeting, and you suddenly go, oh no, 2 extra flex players. You go like,
yeah, exactly. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it. We always to decide draft position. What we'll do is one of the lads brings commissioner brings his PlayStation down. We'll get the WWE on. We'll pick a wrestler each. We'll do a Royal Rumble. So whoever's first out is 10th, and then
that's it. Whoever, as you get knocked out of the Royal Rumble, you that's your draft position as you're going through. Nice.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Done that now for the last 2 or 3. So it's just a fun way to do it, and nobody's got
mix it up a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, and if you've got it set for the whole Friday, and you've got a pub set up and everything else, that's a prime example. You might as well make the whole effort of it and make it a whole event. Sounds great.
Yeah. So that's the last one to go, and then I'm all drafted up, I'm all drafted out, ready to go for the season. It's only starting a couple of weeks after. So yeah, look forward to it. What about yourself? You got any more leagues to go? Or are you done?
I'm still drafting in a couple, which is a bit weird. Some of those sort of charity ones that I've somehow lucked into and things like that. And some of those are like deep drafts, 26 rounds and stuff. And so obviously they're taking a while to fill up. Getting me into the stage now where I'm like, I'm just guessing at whoever's left now. It's like one of them's an IDP one, and you're like, I can't even remember if I've got enough DBs, if I got enough elbow. It's like every time I draft somebody, I go, you got too many of them already. It's like, okay, that must be finished already. So we're almost there. But it's interesting that a lot of the ones that I've gone into, there's one that's still not drafting for another 10 days, and that feels weird because we're deep into training camp now, and lots of injuries and lots of news and stuff's coming out, and it's quite odd to have some that are completely done and dusted. I've been a couple of best ball ones, and you think, well, that's done now. So anything happens, injuries, whatever else, you're like, well, your team's done. It's done and dusted. It's an interesting mix of having some that are done, some that are still to be done, and how I changed going through, because as I said last time out, this is kind of my first foray into it. And I kind of went in, read loads of books, read loads of ideas. I thought, well, I'll do this and I'll do this. And as I've done more and more and watched other people who I've drafted in similar sort of rounds has slightly changed based on more reading, more information, more learning of other people's draft mechanisms as well. And that's what, very much it's been interesting for me is I've gone in and I need to pick these players at these positions. And then you kind of go, well, hang on, that guy next to me has drafted this, this, and this. So what I need to be conscious of, other people in the league and what they're drafting to either stymie them or pick to make sure that they don't handcuff sort of running backs, and little things like that have started to come through.
Yeah, you do develop kind of tactics, right? I mean, the league we've just finished drafting ourselves for the Great Towers one. I mean, I picked up Devonta Smith, I think, as my second wide receiver, I think it was. Now, I was going to take him the round before, bearing in mind 16-team league. I left him, went the whole way around, nearly 30 picks, and dropped him, which I didn't expect, if I'm honest with you, to go and get him in the next round. I was so torn about what to do, and still ended up picking him up was quite surprising. So it's one of those, like, do you risk letting them, the player you really want going? Because actually it makes more sense to go for X player, or do you just go and grab your guy? And sometimes you just got to go out and grab them. I remember in our redraft last year, I think I grabbed Kyle Pitts in the 3rd or 4th round. I really wanted him as my tight end, and I thought, I don't care if anyone thinks I'm drafting him too high or not. Like, he's my guy. He's what I'm after. I'm really excited about him, so I'm going to do it. So you've just got to play as it comes. Like, especially with what we did there in the 16-team league, and I was picking 3rd. I was going so many 25, 26 picks between sometimes.
Yeah, I can't even remember where I was in that. I think I was
wasn't even
somewhere
looking
later, but yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even looking at the draft board until it was about 2 or 3 picks before me because there's no point. Absolutely no point.
Because you'll get all these. I mean, I remember the first couple. I was like, I had all this queue, I had all this plan, and then you like you say, you get one player, you go, yeah, I got one, and then you think, oh, I got 32 picks before it comes back to you, and then your queue is completely blown out of the water, and you end up going, right, who's actually left, and who's the best player available, or you kind of go, I know I want this one, he won't be there. You do a quick calculation in your head, going, it's early, but it's not. By the time it comes back, it's not going to be there. So you're going to have to reach for some, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And you develop that as you go along. The more drafts you do, you kind of realize that, and you start to not necessarily develop a strategy. People do go on strategies. They're running back, QB early, whatever they may do. But realistically, you've got to draft the board. You kind of draft a lot of the time who you want. You have this list going in because it's not going to happen. You might sometimes get lucky where you go, well, actually, those first 6 people I wanted were exactly who I wanted on my list. But it all just depends on where you land in the draft, to then who you've got either side of you, to how far you've got between picks. If you're on the turn, you've got 20 picks between you, whereas if you're in the middle, actually, you've got
a chance of jumping on the runs and stuff. I think in one league I was on the turn and I thought, well, I'll pick a running back and a wide receiver, and then suddenly it just went QB for the next 9. I was like, oh, by the time that comes back to me, I'm struggling to find a decent QB, and you're thinking the QBs will go round 2 or 3 or whatever. I can't even remember I think this was actually it was the first turn, so it was running back, decent wide receiver, elite running back I managed to grab. I thought, well, that's not bad, and then it literally was the next 9 teams just went, oh, they all went QBs. So I was like, oh, who am I left with now? And you're into that second tier of QBs, and you hope you missed it. So yeah, it really is about where you sit, because you can get completely wiped out with some of those QB runs or running back runs and whatever else.
Absolutely, yeah. And you kind of panic when that happens either, because if you do that, then you start making wrong decisions. You look back and you go, why did I pick them? Why did I pick them? And you look at what's happened before and what's happened after, and it's kind of forced into it. So as much as I say draft the board, you've also got to make sure you don't panic when you see that happen.
Don't panic the board, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, it's just all depending on positioning, so who's there, who's available, who have you already got. Are you drafting your team? Are you filling gaps? Are you overdrafted in a position just because there's a run of it happening? You don't want to miss out. So it's just very, very dependent. You've just got to be, clear your head when it's your pick, and not let that influence you, and just kind of look at it with a clear head and go, right, I've got X player, I've got this player, I need this. I can see they've gone, but actually I'm picking again in 6. I could gamble and go, run it back in and QB on there.
Hope they bounce around the corner. Yeah, it's been interesting that way, and it has been a learning curve for me to see the differences of all. And there was a couple that say that a QB run happened, and I panicked and grabbed one, and I looked at them, he's probably, and then no QBs go again, and you think, I could have actually waited 2 rounds and got another when the second sort of tranche of QBs were going. But you do panic, and if you're not in it and it's the first time, you're like, oh, I've got to grab one now, and you think, well, definitely 2 rounds too early, but the safety blanket that you've got, you could at least the best that left was kind of happy. Yeah, maybe all right.
Redraft last year, I was drafting at 8, I think it was. So coming back on the second round, Devontae Adams didn't get picked till the start of the 3rd round, just because people started making decisions based on what had happened. But Devontae Adams dropped to the guy who'd had the 101. So he picks up, I can't remember who it was at the time, I'm guessing it was McCaffrey or someone at the time. Obviously, it didn't work out well, but imagine, he's got McCaffrey, and then he's picked up a good player, and then he's picked up Devontae Adams at the start of the 3rd. Obviously, he could have picked him up in the 2nd. Make a point, he's picked him up at the start of the 3rd, and it's like, well, actually, Devontae Adams should
pack up now. Pack up now, almost, in a way, isn't it?
Even in the 1st round, potentially, so, yeah. And obviously, he ended up, like I say, winning the league in the end. He was the guy who actually got Devontae Adams, but obviously wasn't down to just that. But it's just an example of it, how a good player can just fall through because you're so focused on what's happening before you, that just slips through, and you look and go, actually, whoa, who have I just missed out on? It's crazy. Yeah. I won the league. The year I won the league, I drafted 2 wide receivers as my first 2 picks. I had Antonio Brown and Julio Jones in the middle of the draft at number 6. Picked them to won the league that year, and that was going, running back
kind of against the grain almost. Yeah, picking them, and just because they happen to be there, and just think, well, you can't pass up on them sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, this was the second draft I'd ever done. It was year 2, and again, learning curve, but it looked out for me. I picked out, the two of the best receivers that year in Brown and Jones, and then picked up my team from there. And that's the thing. First 2 or 3 rounds are getting your studs, and then it's building around after that. So you go running backs early. Yeah, there's no need to go then running back 3, 4, 5 potentially. You want to build it.
If you've managed to get the 2 studs early on, then what you need to do is build the supporting cast around them, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I say draft that board, but just make sure you don't let Tony Adams drop down to the 3rd round.
Just kind of using that sort of fantasy side to jump into the kind of recent updates, obviously with training camp. How's it? Not too many bad news stories came out of the Jets training camp, did they?
No, not been too much coming out of it. It seems to be going quite well. A lot of it's for the Jets now. It's a case of it's year 2 for a lot of people in there. Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, Carter, Salah, LaFleur. A lot of these players, Elijah Vera-Tucker. So I've seen an interview actually. I actually watched it earlier today with Michael Carter and Elijah Moore with Tom Pelissero. And they were talking about that. It's the aim every year is to win. Last year it was learning and winning. This year it's executing that and winning. This year, they're going out to win every game, and a lot of the things I've learned from last year will stand in a good stead this year. They felt that the defense was on the field for too long, which the defense did well at the start of the year, but then by the end of it kind of fell away because they were on the field too long.
On the field for so long, got banged up, started to get tired, and
falls back on the offense then to make sure that they're not on the field too long, and it's learning from that. And I think with what we've added with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, experienced tight ends as well who can secure you 5-6 yard, downs as well.
They can be crucial, can't they? When if you got Breece Hall there and you say you're likely to be first down, you're going to try and get a couple of yards on the ground, but you need that outlet with a decent tight end who's going to, he's going to get you 3-4 yards.
Yeah, it can be so vital to moving the chains, So sounds like it's going good. Alexander's come in. Sounds like he's really hit the ground running within camp as well, which is great. And the guys, the players that just can't stop talking about Zach Wilson. His swag, his confidence. It's not an arrogance, it's not a cockiness. It's a confidence in him and his abilities. He's kind of always had that. You look back at his time at BYU and when he talks and that, he's always had a confidence about his ability and his play. And hopefully that translates this year. Back end of last year is, he didn't throw a huge amount.
I think he lost it a little bit, didn't he? It kind of got not surprising. It wasn't the best year for the team, so his confidence obviously took a bit of a knock.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously wasn't it?
He then got injured, and then when he come back, he looked quite good. He was solid. He reduced his interceptions down. I don't think he threw actually that many. Very, very low numbers in the kind of final 6-7 games. So it's about learning from that. We can then add in the other side of it. Using his running backs as a safety. One of the biggest examples of him kind of learning from could be the Bengals game. Mike White did that. I think he threw it to Michael Carter, almost double digits, and that was a huge element in our win over the Bengals that week. Was using the running back as that safety valve, dumping it off.
Safety valve, checking down. You don't have to go for the big score. You don't have to push down the field when if the running back's there for a 3-yard easy, dump off and gain, and you let the running back do the work. It makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So quietly excited about it. Again, I still around that. I think 7 or 8 wins is a good mark for the Jets this year. It's an increase on last year, and it could really set us up for really building on that as well. Still and moving on. So yeah, quietly excited. Hopeful that things will be rolling.
Things will keep you in the mix. Yeah, I mean, from a Niners side, there's a couple of injury concerns that came out. I know Eric Armstead came out with a bit of a twist on the knee, and with as soon as it was a knee injury, you're like, oh no, here we go again. Is it a Bosa? Is it a Jimmy G? Is it like a season-ending one? Sounded like it's just a tweak for a few weeks, so that was a little bit of a relief on that side. But then I think another DL Hurst ended up, and I was reading it was like tearing both biceps. You're like, oh, it's got to be painful. It's got to be painful. And I saw today that we picked up Willie Snead. I was like, there's a veteran to help in the receiving core, so that's going to be an interesting tweak. Hearing issues about our O-line, which is I think our only real concern in the Niners, because defense, it looks like we're we're pushing in a top 3 or 4 defense by the sound of it with our new secondary, and obviously our D line is our strength, linebackers. But then we've got decent enough receiving core, and this Willie Snead one's a bit of a left field, but it sounds like we're not settled on our O line yet, which is obviously a little concern because Shanahan likes the whole misdirection and everything else, and if our O line's not set and we can't sort of run the ball with all that misdirection, it forces Trey potentially into more passing downs than is necessary. So that's a little concern, I think, that we're tracking through.
Yeah, definitely. I think Steve's an interesting one, veteran, like you say, so he'll definitely be there to help, because I know a few times last year the receiving core for the Niners was quite thin at times due to injuries. So, Ayuk and Debo both had their injuries in the past, hopefully behind them, because they could be an absolutely really dynamic 1-2 punch for the Niners, and especially for Trey Lance as well. It'd be huge for him coming in and starting, fully for the first time. So, but it's an interesting one from to come in, like you say, experience. I wouldn't expect to see a huge amount from him, but stranger things have happened. Veterans have come in and done that job, and they say if injuries strike, which the Niners have got a regular occurrence.
Horrible history of it.
Throughout years, then absolutely he certainly could come in and make a mark on the Niners for sure.
I think one I think of, Mohamed Sanu did it. I think it was last season, towards the back end of the season before. Everyone was like, "What's he in there for?" Just maybe he's there as that father figure to teach the running backs how to, our wide receiver team at the time, was Debo and Ayuk, and it was like nobody else. So you needed somebody, and he stepped up. He played a few games and caught a few big passes. So maybe Snead once he's in and about, but I think he is there as that. Here's the routes, here's how to run a route, here's how to, kind of get on and do stuff. But you never know with a history, as you say, with injuries going down and whatever else, he might end up being either a steal or everyone's going to be scratching their head going, that's a waste of a roster spot, if he makes the roster, of course.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing, obviously, as we're starting to get, when's the first proper Jets preseason game? Is it this week or is it?
Normally you have the Hall of Fame game, and then I'll take a quick look now. I'm sure it'll either, if it's not this week, it'll be next week that we'll have our first game.
Because I think we've got next Friday, we've got the Packers, I think, which will be an interesting first preseason game.
Let's have a look. 13th is the first game against the Eagles. Falcons on the 23rd, Giants on the 28th, and then week 1 against the Ravens. So, we've only got 3 preseason games by the looks of it. So, and then they're good teams to take on in Eagles, Falcons, and Giants. So should be interesting. Looking forward to seeing us getting on the field and what we can do, because normally, you'll see they'll probably play about a quarter the first string, roughly, if that, and then they'll
a quarter, maybe a half, and then it starts to go up a bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So it's good to see them get out there and see kind of what they've got cooking.
Yeah, and obviously, I think the Packers game for us is going to be an interesting one, because it'll be interesting to see if it's, here's the first team for the first quarter and what they do about it, or do they hide it? Because the Packers, you've got to assume that if, as you said, Trey Lance comes in and is reasonably decent, whatever else, the Packers are going to be somebody that we'll be looking at as a playoff rival. Do we want to show the hand too early, or is it, you just got to use it as a scrimmage game? And it's just a different look, because I think what I'm hearing from training camp is that our defense is giving Trey a lot of issues, which is either concern or it's just that our defense is on the ball so much that they're going to give issues to everybody. And if Trey can do well against our defense, then any other defense, shouldn't cause them too many issues. It is just, you just want to see progression in these pre-seasons and just no injuries, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always an interesting time. I think, was it last year, or I can't remember what year it was, but pre-season we just start seeing players going down left, right, and centre. So it is that you've got to get them out to get the game time. We look at, always refer back to, because it's what we know best. But football over here, pre-season is all about getting 90 minutes under the belt, getting their legs out, getting a run, getting to work together, playing the system, bedding new players in, and building it from there. So, and that's exactly what it is with pre-season for the NFL. So for sure, you'll probably see them. I would have thought a semblance of a first team for minimum the first quarter, and then from there it'll be different sort of variations and things like that. I mean, just take a quick look at the box score of the Jags Raiders game if I can. Finished 27-11 to the Raiders. Well, let's have a look at the box score. We'll just see kind of what people played in that game.
And whether or not it was tight for a quarter when it was, first team versus first team, or was it even that? I don't even know.
Derek Carr didn't even play by the looks of it. Nor did Monty Adams. I know they were there, but it looks like they kind of didn't play them. Josh Jacobs had a few. He had 5 carries. Kenny Drake had 5 carries. Jarrett Stidham did. Nick Mullins did quite a lot of the work for the Jags. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence didn't play. Slaughter and Luton did a lot of it.
Second, third string almost, not even. Yeah. So
yeah, and I think as we move on, we'll see in the week 2 weeks. I think we'll start to see these plays, like I say, minimum quarter up to a half kind of thing as we finish it out. Maybe even in the last game, you may see them play maybe just over a half potentially. It just depends on where they kind of see them at, how they see the match sharpness and things like that as well. So,
and I guess if they throw them in for a half and they go through some, they go through a progression and the coach says, right, go and play these 20 plays, and you get to the end of it and it's like, well, okay, we've seen what we wanted you to do. You've run through a certain process, and the NFL is so now driven and the stats and data and stuff. They're going to go in and go, we need you to have run at least 25 plays to do this, that, and the other. Once you've hit that target, that's it, and get out and protect them for the actual season starting, because that's when the money starts flowing and it really starts to count.
Absolutely.
Just a left field thing, because some of the 49ers guys are talking about a meetup. Is there a Jets similar sort of thing? Would you do a Jets meetup?
There was, I believe, last year, Jets meetup actually, or earlier this year, I can't remember what it was. I know they met up for the draft party down in London as well. Organised through a lot of the guys through Twitter. Long way to travel for me up from Sunderland, but definitely something I'll keep my eye on, and hopefully, at some point in the future, be able to get down to and be a part of as well.
Centralized group type thing, doesn't it? Yeah, because it sounds like the Niners one that people are talking about and pinging around. There's rumours that it's because I think, as mentioned last week, the president's Sunderland base. A couple of the guys are up Durham way, Darlington, and stuff like that. So there's rumblings that it'll be more further north and stuff like that, because a lot of the group seem to be up that way, and say London it's a long way to travel. It's expensive, etc. So why not aim for a more central or a bit further north and stuff? So it'd be interesting. And the thing with the Niners and the thing with this season, it's like we've got really only 2 options to do it, and it's like first weekend the Bears game, because it's a 6:00 game, and then the next 6:00 one's not until however long, and it might be too late then by the time you kind of try and throw it together, because the season either is whatever else, it's too close to Christmas and stuff. So it looks like it's the Bears game for the first week, or nothing at all. So it's all in the pipe work, and it's all something that, as a UK fan, it's growing. I think that the networks and the groups and the team fan groups on Facebook and social media, they started to see the benefits of the tailgating, because we obviously can't do tailgating over here with how late the kickoffs are and stuff. But it's something that I think the groups in the UK are starting to look towards, because it does engender that, group feel, and you can build drafts out of it, and you can do little more than just sit in your room in the middle of the night watching a random game of sport that nobody else knows about. It'll definitely build, I think, throughout obviously each of the fan bases. And I know the Jets one, obviously, like I say, for the draft party, Nick Mangold turned up, which was quite good, because he announced one of the Jets picks from London as well. So it seems to be something that's growing. Jets definitely got a really good UK link and fan base as well. The Jets kind of know about the UK fan base, which is quite good as well. They've got their own UK Jets official Twitter group as well, or page. So it's definitely something that's building. I think we'll see a lot more of this popping up through other teams as well, having theirs. I know I've seen things on Twitter of the Packers having
similar ones as well down in London.
Especially with them obviously coming over for the London game, there's going to be a massive push for that.
Absolutely. So it's definitely something that I think is going to be, as I say, as time goes by, is going to be a lot more. And hopefully it can be spread around the country, so we don't have to spend over £100 to travel to London.
Yeah, that's always like, and I think you're right. As it becomes a bigger sort of sport in the UK, the difficulty obviously in the UK side of things is finding a venue, I suppose, because it's a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening game. Which venue is going to want some random sport on there? Because over here, obviously, that's a late sort of Sunday afternoon kickoff for the Premier League. It's going to be overlapping some of those early games. So I think that's something else that the UK fan has to deal with. That you can't. Everyone comes strolling in with Jets shirts on, and everyone's going to be, oh, hang on, Man City are playing Liverpool at the moment. You're not going to get a chance to turn the TV over and watch that game because this isn't finished yet. So all those little things will start to grow, and I think that's probably some of the logistics that you see everyone in the States and on a game day, and they're out there in the car park for hours before tailgating. It's like, it sounds amazing. It looks amazing. But it's have you experienced it as well? You've been out to Meadowlands. Well, I'll say Meadowlands.
Opening day, 2014, 2015. Played Browns and Raiders. I think it was Browns 14. Raiders 15. Went tailgating for both, and really, really, really good and enjoyable. I think actually the Browns game, Johnny Manziel was actually quarterback for the Browns that game.
Johnny Football. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'm sure the Raiders game was Derek Carr's debut as well. But I might be wrong on that. He might have already been in for a year. I don't know. But yeah, it was good. Tailgating was absolutely amazing as well. Just seeing everyone doing their own thing, their own barbecues, their own food, their own drink. Like, we brought a keg and a barbecue down, and yeah, it's an experience. It's a lot of fun.
And it's interesting because the 49er Faithful UK just did a pod about traveling to San Francisco as a UK fan and places to go and things to do and make sure you do and whatever else. So it's kind of, because there's a couple of guys that have done that, and that's definitely kind of tweaked the interest of, I'll get there early, do the get to Santa Clara area because it's not in the city, so you do the city bit first, and you travel out for the full game experience and do the whole tailgate, because it's one of those things you have to kind of almost experience to get the idea of it. So definitely on the list for next year. I think not just. I think you've got to, as a UK fan, you've got to build up for it and save up for it and make sure you've kind of got it all saved up, and also make sure the family are happy with it.
Definitely. I mean, I was lucky. I was working out there at the time, which is why I could go. But yeah, if you can do it, definitely. Jets is similar. Play out in New Jersey, so you're going to do it. Do the whole city thing the day before, the day after, whenever. And your day is just on that. You want to get there 10:30, 11 o'clock, because then you get yourself a couple of hours before the kick-off at 1, and just the walk down to MetLife as well was just crazy as well. I didn't think I'd experienced anything like that. Think about my experience as a football fan over here, and going to Sunderland matches, for example. Like going last week was amazing. We had 40,000 there as well, but I think MetLife.
It was literally you just go there almost like 20 minutes, half an hour before the game. There's not that massive build-up, is there? It's not a whole sort of all-day event type thing, and that's I think obviously something that we don't get, because as you see, for football over here, you kind of, if you're going to go, you go just before, or an hour before you get to the ground or whatever else, and you don't do that whole hang around, or not hang around, but meet in the parking lot and have all of the random people sitting to you.
More than anything, so
you're in the pub having a few, and then you head over. So yeah, I suppose it's a different mindset and mentality, and national sort of go down the pub is a UK sort of the pastime, and NFL is a religion for the US guys.
Absolutely.
Well, wraps us up nicely, I think. Appreciate you, as I say, being flexible, because I know we changed the dates and stuff around. So appreciate that, Con. It's been good to catch up again and see you, and we'll look forward to episode 3 next week.
Absolutely. See you then.
Cheers, man.
Thanks.